What is up, you guys? Marty McFly coming at you, bringing you guys the merch. So I was just watching the video from Classy Lonnie Metal, and he just put out a sensational video regarding the Tennessee Death Metal Festival that they just went to. And it really got me thinking about some of the stuff that's come in lately, the stuff that's coming out in the year of 2025, and just how lucky we are and privileged we are to have a phenomenal year in heavy metal music. And the year 2025 has probably been one of our best years in music in quite a while. Every band you could possibly imagine has probably tried to come out with a record this year. We're missing a couple that I really wish had made it for the 2025 cycle, but that's okay. That just means 2026 has more in store for us. And I'm thinking if we're going to talk about a band that belongs on the end of the year top 10 heavy metal records list, I have to talk about this band. And that, of course, is the Acacia Strain with their newest offering, You Are Saved from God Here. One of the best records, for sure, of 2025, and probably one of their best albums in the last couple of years. I really enjoyed everything they've done throughout their discography and their time. Vincent Bennett's a really cool guy. I still remember meeting him at Summer Slaughter Tour, and he was just chilling by the booth, and I went and shook his hand, and he couldn't have been nicer. Signed all my stuff. Him and I were just talking about like how, some of their music just got me through some rough days, especially going through school or work or whatever it was, and just how much their music meant to me. And he said, yeah, man, I don't know how we create such angry, aggressive, brutal music, but somehow it helps people. And I was one of those. And this record is no different. I enjoyed what they did with the last couple albums. I will say their last two, now they really went in two different modes. They went on a full-on New York era hardcore where it's short songs, just blistering lyrics, blistering blast beats, and aggression. And then they did their prog stuff with the three really long tracks where they brought in different bands to create these tracks. And I enjoyed that. However, I feel like this is a more complete record. Even going back before that, when they had their kind of like dark, I don't know what you want to call it, blackened. It was like a blackened doom prog project, basically, with the glow-in-the-dark vinyl. Love that record, absolutely. And even the accompanying album that came out shortly after that was probably one of my favorite Acacia Strain albums of all time. I mean, you had a lot of guest vocalists on that record, and I feel like this really captures that era of the Acacia Strain. So I'm thinking like the 2020, 2021 era of the Acacia Strain, and I really feel like this kind of recaptures some of that while recapturing some of the stuff that came off of their newer records, the last two, the 3-song and then the full length. I feel like it's a pretty good blend of everything. But what I really enjoyed is I feel like it's a more complete record. You didn't need an accompanying EP to go with it. But this is blistering ferociousness, destruction, grief, a little bit of melody, and it shows throughout all aspects of the album. I like that there's a little touch of their proggy stuff. They have brought back a little bit of the melodic early hardcore stuff. And, even more like when they were trying to do like Continent and 4x4 and some, JFC, they brought in like a little bit of that like post-hardcore elements that they had on there, the Rise Record era stuff. So there's a little bit of something for everybody on this. And I bought this off of Newberry Comics. Now, I already do have him. He signed one of my CDs way back in the day, Vincent Bennett. He says don't call him Vinny. But Vincent Bennett signed one of my CDs way back in the day. But Newberry Comics comes out with a translucent gallery, ruby and lemonade vinyl, limited edition of 400. But it's signed by the band. And that's probably one of my favorite parts about this. It was well worth the money to get it signed by the band. You can actually kind of tell who wrote it, too. Like, it's not just squiggles. You can actually kind of see who wrote it, and you got one, so it was pretty awesome to actually get this. This is definitely getting framed. And, of course, the record itself with their ferocious, really reminiscent of a black metal project. And if you watch their videos, the making of this record, half their equipment was broken in the studio, and that's how they've written the last couple records. One of the pedals wasn't working, the computer software program, they had problems. So this was almost written like a black metal project. It's just really honest, it's brutal. Vincent said this album was like a tour de force for him to finish up and write. It took him through a lot of trauma to basically write it, and it shows just of how blistering it is. And like I said, it's basically a black metal project because half their equipment wasn't working. I've always loved what this band has done. I'm sure you've noticed a theme without all their records. It's always got a bird and it's always got a skull on it. My favorite picture of this, because a lot of their records have really featured this. I don't know which one my favorite one would be when it comes to actually covering that picture, but maybe their Death is the Only Mortal. I would probably say is my favorite cover with the bird and the skull, but yeah, probably Death is the Only Mortal. It's got Brain Death, which is one of my favorite Acacia Strain songs of all time. I wish they would do a little bit more of that melodic guitar stuff they did on that record, but that's okay. So this is the, that Galaxy Lemonade vinyl, whatever you want to call it, but it's basically just like a gorgeous orange with a little bit of merge and marbling that's kind of hard to see on this, but beautiful record. Now, if you're sitting here and you're like, but Marty, what song would you recommend I play? And this may not make sense to anybody. I don't think you should go with the singles. The singles are very good, but I think if you want a song that's going to immediately want to make you pull into this record and go buy it and go play it, I'd say we start with Acolyte of the One. Or if you really want a good surprise, wait till that track comes on and you're just going to want to throw a mosh pit in your bedroom. There's a couple guest vocalists on here, and I think they fit perfectly. They go through a little bit of their... they go through quite a bit of their discography in this record itself. You could definitely tell the influences from the last two albums are definitely on here. Now, I will say, everything on here is fantastic. Swamp Mentality, like I said, if you want to go towards their single tracks, then that's fine. But everything on here is a blast, but I love the riff that's at the very end of Acolyte of the One. It just screams like Continent era Acacia Strain. It's just a blast. It made me want to just start, throwing hands by myself while I was sitting here in my room. And then to finish the album was something I'm really glad they did. I was nervous that they weren't going to do it because of how the last record went, but they did it. The last track on the album is basically a melodic doom and like blackened hardcore song. So it starts with just like the really like ambient, ethereal acoustic guitars. You got a female backup vocalist assisting in the song, and it's a little bit of clean vocals from her too. And then going back and forth between him, her, and then these acoustic guitars. It really does take you to a really long, like a haunting journey to finish the album, and that made me want to play side B more and more and more. Now, side A basically finishes, Acolyte of the One, so you have to kind of wait for that really good part before the album finishes. And then the side B, the final track, like I said, it's a melodic doom, blackened hardcore journey. It's beautiful, it's haunting, it's melodic, it's still ferocious at the end of the day. And the record did not disappoint. I mean this when I say this will be my top 10 records of this year. So if you haven't played it, I highly recommend you check it out. This is You Are Safe from God here, the Acacia Strain 2025. I hope you guys are doing well. Take care of each other and play some freaking tunes. Peace.